Hey, when I got into real estate, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no money, no plan, no experience, nothing. I would have killed for this video. So in this video, Cam and I are going to walk you through step by step how to buy your first or your next investment property. When I look at all the people who try to get into real estate, and then I kind of try to figure out why don't most of them ever do it, this, I believe, is the number one bottleneck. Now, it's not money. A lot of you are thinking, well, I don't have money. And it's not deals. Like you can figure all that stuff out. The number one reason people don't get in is they simply don't decide. They just don't choose to do it. And there's a few key decisions I want to talk about here with Cam today, like to start with. But if you don't decide, you just flounder around forever. There's a great quote in that book, Traction, from Gino Wickman, where he says, it's often more important that you decide than what you decide. And so just in life in general, the power of decisions are so important. Like if you don't decide what diet to go on, you won't diet. If you don't decide where to go on vacation, you won't go on vacation. If you don't decide what good looking clothes look like, you'll just wear ugly looking clothes forever, right? Like decisions are the basis of growth. And so the more decisive as a person you can become, the more likely you are able to actually launch off in your career or in your investment portfolio of real estate. So that's why decision-making is just so darn important. Cam, anything you want to, extrapolate upon that?
The number one thing that you have to do, I mean, looking at our life where we got into a place where I knew that I didn't want to continue living like we were living. And so I had to make a decision saying, hey, we are going to sell everything we have in Denver. We're going to move across the country to St. Louis, Missouri, and we're going to go all in. And I'm really glad that we had that decision. I think a lot of people, we were actually lucky to where we had something happen in our life that kind of forced us into that. I think there's a lot of people that are just like that average. They don't have that thing that's pushing them to make that decision. And so I would say that the other thing that I think is really important, which I know that we're going to talk about in a second, but is you got to decide to go for it, but then you also got to decide what does that look like when you are doing it. I think that is so important because I see a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to get into real estate, but then after this, I have this conversation almost every day of like, I had it yesterday, a guy that was like, I'm thinking about doing boutique hotels, but I want to wholesale, and I also want to do midterm rentals and all over the place where you have to make a decision on what is it that you are going to focus on.
Yeah, I love that. I want to double tap on the first thing you said there is the decision of, are you going to do this or not? Now, you don't have to have made that decision right now at this part of the podcast and say, I'm going to do it for sure. But my hope is by the end of this video or podcast, you're like, dang, I'm in all the way. And like you said, like something forced you kind of to do that. Sometimes it's just mass amounts of pain that'll get us to change and actually commit to something. And sometimes it's just mass amounts of pleasure that's possible, right? So like you could be pushed away from a life that you didn't want, like a health scare, or like I remember my wife driving to work every day, like in her crappy car that we couldn't afford to get the windshield, like defroster fixed. So she's like got her head out the window. You can imagine Heather head out the window trying to drive to Starbucks at 3 a.m. Like that, like pain drove me, but also the idea of like, I want to be a good dad someday, and a good dad can't work 50, 60 hours a week at $10 an hour. Like I've got to do something different. So like the pleasure, so to speak, of having like being a good dad and having that dream life where I could travel and spend time with my kids and wake up when I want to wake up, that was pulling me at the same time. So whether it's pain, whether it's pleasure, whether it's both, you've got to actually decide and commit and say, I'm going to do it. And here's what I think a lot of people get wrong. And I know I'm really emphasizing this point because I just see this over and over and over. It's because people don't commit, is they feel like they have to have all the information in order to make a decision. Like people treat their life like you treat a jury. Like I have to weigh all the options. I have to deliberate in a room for a few days. I have to think about this. What if I make the wrong choice? But in reality, like the most successful people I know, they commit and decide before they have all the data and information. They just say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to figure it out along the way. You can always correct course. You might say, I'm going to do, rental properties. And then you're like, oh, actually I like flipping better. Great. But you can't steer a bicycle if the bicycle's standing still. You got to be moving. So yeah, my encouragement is like, move, like make a choice, make a lot of choices, be somebody who's decisive and commit to this thing, go all in.
Well, and one of the things that like Lexi and I, we say a lot in our life is it's not that deep. And what I mean by that is I see a lot of people think like I'm making this decision and it's going to change my entire life, which I think real estate investing can. And I have to have all of my ducks in a row and know exactly where I'm going to invest and what it's going to be. And like, to me, a lot of times, like, it's not that deep. Like you can do that. And if you want to change, you can change. Like it's not that big of a deal where it's like, okay, maybe Memphis didn't work out for you. Well, another place, or maybe a boutique hotel didn't work out. Maybe flipping houses can. And the reason I'm saying this is because I struggle with it, where it's like, I feel like every decision I make is like, oh, this is the rest of my life. It's going to change everything. And a lot of times it's just not. It's not that deep. Now, obviously, if you get yourself in tens of millions of dollars of debt, like that sucks. That's pretty deep.
But even that, like, you run the worst case scenario analysis on it. Like Tim Ferriss does a good job of this in the 4-Hour Workweek, where he's like, what's the worst that could possibly happen? Like, okay, you lose your job, you go bankrupt, your family hates you. It's like, okay, well, you're still alive, you're probably still healthy. Like, there's a lot worse things that can happen. And so financial stuff is not that big of a deal. It's not that deep. I love that you brought that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is 6 decisions that I want to encourage every person to make. So I'm going to go through all 6 real quick, and then we can kind of unpack it one by one. Because once you know this, like these 6 things, everything is going to be easier going forward. If you don't nail these, you're going to struggle finding deals or getting the financing, because it all depends on this. So here they are. Write this down. Take some notes. Number 1 is you got to choose your strategy. What strategy are you going to pursue? Is it flipping, wholesaling? Is it midterm rentals? Is it short-term rentals? And there's a ton of strategies that exist out there, but you got to pick your strategy. And again, we'll double click on that in just a second. Number 2 is you got to pick your location. Where are you going to do it at? It could be local, could be long distance. Both work. Each have pros and cons. It's probably another topic for another video someday. So subscribe to find that one when it comes out. Number 3 is property type. Like, are we talking single family houses? Because if you get strategy, okay, I want to do rentals. Okay, well, what are you going to rent? Is it single family, multifamily, large multifamily? Is this commercial? Is this, residential? Like, what exactly property type are we talking about? Next, we have condition. Do you want a fixer-upper? Are you looking for something that you can just ground up develop, like from nothing? Are you looking for something that's already nice and simple and easy and turnkey? Kind of define what kind of condition you want. And then we have price range. What's the minimum? What's the maximum you're looking at? And then finally, you have what I call profitability. In other words, decide what would make it a good deal for you. Like, are you looking for a 10% return on your money, or are you looking for a 20% return on your money? I mean, what's reasonable? And again, you don't have to perfectly know that right now, but that's what I want you to work towards. And here's why this matters so much. Then we'll double click on each of those. If you were to go to a real estate agent, or you go to a meetup and go talk to somebody, or you were to hire a coach for a day and talk to them, or whatever, you're just talking to a buddy at who's in real estate, and they say, what are you looking for? So Cam, let's just try that. You asked me what I'm looking for.
Brandon, it's great meeting you at this meetup tonight. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I just want to get into real estate. I just want to get a deal. I'm just looking for a deal.
Cool, man.
It's
cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. I will see you around. I'll see you at the bar later on tonight at the meetup.
Yeah. End of conversation. Right? Because like, what is Cam supposed to do with that? Cam, what was your instant thought when you hear somebody say that? I'm just looking for anything. I'm just looking for a deal, looking to make money.
This dude has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. No idea.
This happens all the time. Let's run it back though. So, oh, what's up, man?
Oh my gosh, you're Cam Cathcart. Can I have your autograph? Can I get a selfie? Dude, you're amazing.
Hey, great meeting you. So what do you do? What are you looking for here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty new, but what I really want to like buy a like duplex somewhere in like the Cincinnati area. I'm going to like live in half of it, rent the other half out. So I'm going to house hack this thing. So if you happen to know anybody who's got one of those, like a fixer upper under a couple $100,000, I would love to talk to you about it. I mean, if I can make a few $100 a month and live for free, dang. That's what I want.
Actually, I know 3 wholesalers or investors that are in the Cincinnati area that I can connect you with. Yeah, do you mind if I get your number and I'll connect? I'm happy to connect you.
Dude. Yes. Do you guys see the difference of that one? Like, one, when you tell people specifically what you want because you made decisions, the world, quote unquote, the world, the universe conspires to make it happen. And there's no magic here. It's just people need something to grab onto if they're going to help you. Like, it can't help you if you don't know how to be helped. And so you tell people exactly what you want, and most likely they either can help you or they know somebody that can help you. It's shocking, like the situation that Cam just said there is like, oh, I know a wholesaler in that area. It's shocking how often that happens to me when people tell me a specific thing they want. Investors know a lot of investors. And so it's like, oh yeah, I know a guy that could probably help you. And then you go to that guy, you do the same thing, and that guy might not be able to help, but he knows a guy that can help. And you just keep working that until you get what you want. Hey, let's go in a little deeper on the strategy idea. You and I do very different strategies. Like, what is your recommendation on picking a strategy? Should somebody flip, wholesale, rental, BRRRR, short-term rental? What's your thoughts?
That's a great question. I don't think there's any strategy that is wrong. But I do think at certain times, you kind of have to recalibrate of what is working. Like for me, one of the things that I would say right now is really tough is burring properties. I think that's tough to do. Interest rates are high. Rents haven't caught up. Values are high. And so like being able to do that stereotypical burr is not working right now.
For those who don't know burr, you want to explain the acronym real quick, just in case?
Oh, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat.
There you go. Yeah, it's like a fixer up. It's like you're flipping the house to yourself. You're flipping it, but you're holding on to it.
And it's a phenomenal strategy, but it's tougher to do right now. And so like part of that is like, okay, so we have to flip to make good active income because we know that we're going to have to leave some money tied up into these burr deals that we're doing. And so there's things like that. But I don't think there's any wrong strategy as long as you like learn and you go all in. I think the wrong strategy is trying to do everything.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when real estate was really easy, like investing was super easy and like anything you bought would probably make sense, like think 2012. But today, like the bar is just raised, like you got to be better. And the way you become better at anything is by getting more specific and more granular, right? Like, I mean, your daughter is an amazing gymnast, right? But she's not also an amazing soccer player and basketball player and volleyball player. I mean, maybe she is. Cathcards are kind of freaks and athletic, but I've not found a sport yet that Cam has not completely destroyed me at. Like first time playing pickleball destroyed me. But the point is you get focused and that's how you get good. And then you put in the hours with something very specific. So, there's a lot of, there's obviously flipping and there's wholesaling, which is basically like you get a finder's fee. That's a probably loose definition, but you get a finder's fee, but you don't actually own the property. And then, of course, there's rentals. And of course, there's a million types of rentals out there. And if you're interested, I said I was going to give you guys a bunch of free resources today. One of those, I wrote an ebook because the way that real estate worked 10 years ago and 15 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 doesn't always work today. So I put an ebook called Cashflow Isn't Dead. It's 20 plus strategies that print money like today. And so you can get that. I think to get it, you just go to the resources here on YouTube, or if you're listening to the podcast, go to my Instagram and DM me the word, just one word, the word fringe, Fringe, because these are like fringe strategies. They're not the mainstream ones. And there are things like mobile home parks or assisted living, co-living is one of my favorites. I bought 2 co-living properties this year, but I own a lot of mobile home parks. Self-storage is one of them. There's these more like fringe. They're not your typical single family house, put 25% down, buy it on the MLS. Like that doesn't really work as well today. And so it's more fringe strategies that work. And here's my cat. I don't know if you can see Bluey just decided to join us for the podcast. Go away. All right. So anyway, you can get that again, either in the resource section below or in the description, or you can just DM me the word fringe. One more decision before we move on to the second D in the process. One more decision I'd encourage people to make. And inside First Deal, we actually have everyone sign a thing called the First Deal Declaration, or a next deal declaration if they've already done one. And that is, when are you going to buy? Like, when are you going to do this? There's a thing called Parkinson's Law. I know you've heard of that, Cam. Parkinson's Law says work expands to fill the time allotted for it. So if you have 3 weeks to work on a paper, remember back in high school, it's like, hey, you got this paper due in 3 weeks. When do you work on the paper? The night before it's due, right? Like it'll take you, even if you work on it throughout the process, it takes you the time that you give it to do it. So if you have this open-ended, I'm going to buy rental properties someday, I'm going to flip houses someday, then someday maybe you will. That's a very large time thing. But if you said in the next 90 days, I'm going to buy a property, all of a sudden now you're like, oh, I've committed to it. I know my crystal clear criteria. My buy box is nailed, my strategy, location, all that. And now I have a deadline. Now I can reverse engineer that. So if you do not have a clear deadline on when you're going to buy that first property, I would highly encourage you to think through that. Now, it's not going to be next week. Like, it's going to take you a little bit of time, but it shouldn't be a year from now. I know like the First Deal program is a year long, but like that's only because we want you to buy multiple deals and we want to help you along the way as you stabilize them and get through the rehabs and all that. It shouldn't take you that long to buy a deal, but it's not going to take you a week. So set a decision. Are you going to do it? Define your criteria, and then tell me, when are you going to do it? And if you have that, if that's all you get from today's episode here of the show, like nail that down, you are farther along than 90% of people.
I love it. Can I play devil's advocate a little bit?
I would love that.
Well, just because I've done that before. And what are your thoughts? And I know this is probably what you mean by this, but sometimes like we are trying our hardest and we just can't buy a house. And then it's like, okay, are we going to increase our offer and put ourselves in a bad situation? Where it's like for us in our company, one of the things that we switched is like, I don't care about how many houses we buy. I mean, I do because that's how I make money, but I care how many offers we put out. Like that to me is more important, where it's like, dude, if we're putting out a significant amount of offers and they're where we need to buy the house at and we're not getting anything locked up, like, dude, that just really sucks. Yeah, but it's still a win where we're not putting ourselves in a bad situation, I guess.
Yeah, there's a great study or paper called I think it's called The Dark Side of Goals, or it's something it's like written by some psychologists, some smart people. And the gist of it is when you set really specific goals, there is a dark side to them. Is sometimes it forces you then to make bad decisions and buy things you shouldn't or do things you shouldn't just to accomplish them. That's a real possibility.
Playing devil's advocate again, the very first house we bought was because
you're double advocating?
Devil's advocating because the first house we bought was a terrible decision. We broke even on it, but that was because we did our own work in it. If you had paid us for the man hours, we'd have lost tens of thousands of dollars. And it was the best thing that we've ever done.
Yep.
Where it was like, hey, we bought a house because I said I was going to buy a house. And it was a terrible decision in like that specific house, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the best decision I've ever made. So devil advocate. I can't talk.
It's a good point. Like there are goals, like goals are good, but goals are also dangerous. If you don't have a timeline, then the chance of you ever doing it is pretty slim. Like if you're like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds someday, it's like there's no bias for action. But at the same time, if you say I'm going to lose 20 pounds, it might force you to do something, like that you wouldn't normally do, that's not sustainable, etc. So same thing with real estate, same thing with everything. How you deal with maintenance requests as a landlord is such a stark difference between the pros and the amateurs. The best landlords don't just fix things, they build systems that actually make tenants feel heard, the problems get prioritized, and repairs get done fast. And now there's something really cool worth checking out. So TurboTenant just released a free AI tool that actually troubleshoots maintenance requests for you. So when a tenant submits a request, the AI reaches out to gather details, like where the issue is, what's been tried already, and even collects photos. It can actually walk tenants through simple fixes, like flipping a breaker or, whatever, and drastically reduce that kind of vague back and forth request that drains your time. So if you manage rentals, it is worth a look. Just check it out at turbotenant.com. That's turbotenant.com. All right, well, why don't we move on, because we spent a lot of time in decision, but I do believe that's the most important part. Everything else will flow from that. And that leads to the second D. Once you identify your decisions and you got your criteria nailed down, the next step on this step-by-step guide is to generate deal flow. Now, there is a difference between deals, like going to get a deal, and deal flow. And it gets a little bit complicated, but a quick story to illustrate this. One of the most life-changing stories I ever read. In the book Cashflow Quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki, he tells a story about a town that ran out of water. For some reason, their well dried up. And so they hired two people to go and fix the problem. First guy grabs some big buckets, walks 7 miles to the river, gets water, walks back, dumps in the town, reservoir, and everyone cheers. Yay! And then they drink the water and they're out again. So the guy goes back and goes and gets more, and he comes back. And pretty soon he's got to take not 2 buckets, but 4 buckets. And then he gets one of those big bars across his neck, and he's got 8 buckets on it because the town's thirsty. Every day, back and forth. Pretty soon he gets his kids involved, his wife's out there, all hauling buckets back and forth. And the town celebrates every time he brings back water. Cool. The second person they hired disappeared. This woman, she's just gone. Everyone's like, where'd she go? She clearly doesn't care about water. She clearly doesn't care about the town. She's off there gallivanting, and this guy's over here hauling buckets the way you're supposed to do it. Well, after a few weeks, the woman shows back up in town, and she puts the final turn on a large metal pipe. And then she turns the spigot, and cold, fresh, clear water just flows out of it continually. And the first guy's out of work forever. And so that forever sits in my brain, that story, because I'm always wondering, am I just hunting for a deal? Or am I creating deal flow? Or am I just doing something good for my kids once? Or am I building a system that will improve my kid's life for the entire time I'm with them? Or my marriage, or my health? I'm going to go do a diet, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Fine. That's going out there to hunt for a deal. That's hauling buckets. I want to always be thinking, how do I build a pipeline? And that's what deal flow is. And I know deal flow is a phrase that you actually use a lot, Cam. And I know you had a program for a long time called deal flow. What would you add or subtract to what I just said there when it comes to deals versus deal flow?
Dude, so I wrote down, I'm going to talk to my team about this town with no water. I actually have never heard that story before.
It's so good, man. So good. I had forgotten it came from Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I read that book when I was like 20. It came from Cashflow Quadrant, the sequel. And then I reread it a few years ago, and I'd be like, I've been teaching that story for 20 years, and I had no idea. I just stole it from Kiyosaki. But thanks, Uncle Robert.
The difference between deals and deal flow, and I see this happen a lot, is people they'll go all in on trying to find a deal. They're going to reach out to a bunch of different people. Hey, do you have any deals? Hey, but they're not spending the time building the relationships, building the snowball is what I always talk about, where it's like to be a good investor, especially in the single family realm, which is what I know, is like you're building a snowball, and you might not get a deal for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, because right now you're focused on relationships. Like, yes, I think that you could go out and you could say, hey, send me any houses that you have. I'm going to go walk them. I'm going to make offers. I might get a deal, but it's not the faucet. The faucet is when you build relationships with the agents in your area, the wholesalers in your area, the property management companies, the probate attorneys in your area, to where you don't even have to try anymore. They just know you, and they're going to reach out to you with a deal. Like right now, I live in Hawaii. I invest in St. Louis. I've got home buyers in St. Louis that are out there, home buying specialists that are looking for deals, but I could buy 20 houses a year without doing anything now because of the prior work that I put in for 3 to 4 years, boots on the ground in St. Louis, and the relationships that I've built. Is I could buy 20 houses just from people that I know and trust, that know and like and trust me, and they send me a home run deal, and I don't have to do anything.
I want to take this to even the newbie. If you're watching this and you're like, well, I'm not going to build a giant pipeline and do all this work. I'm just looking for a deal. I want one property. I still say this applies. And here's what I mean by that. If you're relying on you to go out and hunt and kill an animal, like that requires your, self-discipline to get up and go out there and do it. Versus if you set a trap, which is like a pipeline, you get things to come to you automatically. And I want to lay out like a beginner, intermediate, and then some advanced strategies for building deal flow. And the first one, I'll illustrate what I mean by for newbies, this is building deal flow. It's called get a real estate agent. If you have a real estate agent who is and even better, get a real estate agent who will set you up with automatic emails for properties that are close to fitting your criteria. So if you want a duplex in Cincinnati, have an agent set you up with automatic emails for duplexes and maybe triplexes if you want to expand a little bit to open it up. Duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes in Cincinnati under $200,000. You set that up. It's free. It costs you nothing if you don't buy a property. And all of a sudden you have deal flow. Like that's the easiest, most basic way to get deal flow is just have a real estate agent set you up with an automatic email. Now, when you get that email, or even better, a text message, boom, you can jump in there, analyze the deal, run the numbers, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and then make an offer on it. Like you have deal flow built in. It doesn't require you to go out there and hunt for it. It's coming to you. That's like very basic beginner deal flow. Intermediate would be something like build a relationship with wholesalers or other landlords. Like if you took a different landlord out to coffee every single week for a year, you would buy 10 of their properties by the end of the year. Like that's the reality of it. If you went and met with a different wholesaler every week, you would find a few that are just absolute rock stars that would get you deals.
In my group that I have, even though it's shut down, we're still continuing on with calls. And one of the things I talk about is like, you have to be creative in finding deal flow. And so like one of the things that I would do is I'd always reach out to junk removal companies because they're going to properties that are typically distressed. Maybe a tenant moved out and the landlord is hiring them out to come and clean it, or maybe the house was flooded, there was a fire, X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be. And so I was like, just reach out to them and tell them if they pass along a potential deal for you, you'll pay them a $2,500, referral fee or something like that. And one of the guys in the group, he did that last week. And the very first junk removal company he called, he got a lead and he put it under contract that day, which I'm like, so it works. It works. And that's that is obviously an outlier. Like you have to be consistent and do it over and over again, but there are deals out there. And if you build those relationships and that snowball or that whatever, that hose, then it's going to stay there forever. So it's so important.
100% agree. The last thing I was going to say there about advanced deal flow. So the beginner, get an agent, intermediate, maybe wholesalers, other landlords, just networking, go to local meetups. Let's talk about some advanced stuff that you and I have both done a little bit of, maybe a lot of all of this stuff. And there's a lot. I mean, this is not a comprehensive list. It's just a few things. One popular thing is direct mail marketing, which is where you send out letters, postcards, whatever. There's pay-per-click ads, which is like you're advertising on Google or Facebook. There's pay-per-lead companies who are out there, with those like, we buy houses fast and quick and close.com, and then like people go to them and then they just sell the lead to you. Those are called pay-per-lead. There's SEO, which is where you make a website like I buy CincinnatiDuplexes.com. And then when somebody in Cincinnati goes, how do I sell my duplex in Cincinnati? It pops up and then you go to that. That's SEO. There's cold calling. There's billboards, which like you literally put a billboard, we buy nasty duplexes in Cincinnati. There's signs on your car. There's driving for dollars. Get in your car. That's probably more of an intermediate one. Get in your car, drive around, look for properties that are a little bit more run down that kind of fit your criteria.
Yeah. Driving for dollars is completely free.
Yeah, and it's totally free. That might even be a beginner one too. Here's one more point to differentiate between deals and deal flow. Deal is, hey, I'm going to go drive for dollars today. And you go do it, and then you never do it again. Because like you're relying on self-discipline. Your job as an investor is to get deals, like lead flow, get leads, run the numbers, and then figure out how much you can pay for it. And that's part of the deal flow process is you run the numbers, do the math, and then you put it out there. The math is not that complicated, but it is one of the most important things to get right. And so I do want to throw another resource for everyone. Again, it's in the description of the YouTube video, or I'll tell you where you can get to it on my Instagram. I have a 5-day deal analysis challenge. It basically every day for 5 days in a row, you're going to get a video from me that walks you through one aspect of deal analysis, and each day builds upon the previous. So it's maybe 20 minutes a day of work. But at the end of those 5 days, you will be better than 99% of people at analyzing a rental property specifically. So if you're interested in that, either go to the description in the YouTube video or go to my Instagram, go send me a DM. And I think the keyword is 5DC. 5DC, one word, 5DC, no spaces, like as in dog, cat, 5 dog, cat, but just 5DC. Send me that on a DM and I'll send you info on the 5-day deal analysis challenge so you can get good at analyzing deals. Figure out what the number is.
5 deal challenge. I get it.
Oh, that's where 5DC came from. I was trying to think of that, but as I was talking,
I was like, how does that add up? There we go.
Or the 5-day challenge.
5-day challenge.
Could be 5 deal. No, it might be 5-day challenge. All right. Well, speaking of D, let's go to the next D here. Once you've got leads coming in and you're analyzing them and you're making offers, at some point, you got to figure out how to pay for it. And that is the debt. DEBT. Before we go to debt, though, Cam Cathcart, what is your thoughts on Dave Ramsey's "you should never have debt, even on rental properties" philosophy? Where do you sit on that?
I am not going to knock Dave Ramsey. I think he's great for a lot of people. For investors, you should never listen to him. No, you should listen to him. You should just not listen to a lot of his stuff. I am probably I would say $12 million in debt, and you're hundreds of millions, if not. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm close to $1 billion, whatever.
You're close to $1 billion. Yeah, exactly. That's insane. But like Robert Kiyosaki, he was on Graham Stefan's podcast the other day. I don't know. Did you see that?
No.
And I think he said that he was, they asked him how much debt he's in, and he said something like $2.5 billion. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what the number was.
He made that really funny point where he said, when you owe the bank, I think he said this, when you owe the bank $100,000, that's your problem. When you owe the bank $1 billion, that's their problem.
Exactly. So he because it was brilliant. He said, when you owe the bank $100,000, the bank owns you. When you owe the bank $2 billion, you own the bank. Because they asked him, are you worried about being that far in debt? And he's like, no, which is a fair point. Like a bank is going to work with you.
Yeah, there's actually an interesting thing right now this goes pretty advanced, but on some of the large apartment complexes that I bought in Texas, a few of them, like the market has crashed so hard that they're like at like basically what our note is, like we owe, like it's worth about what the note is on a couple of these deals. And the banks are not super friendly trying to work with us because they don't need to. Like, fine, sell it, lose all your money. Like, we're made whole. But one of our deals is so far under because Austin crashed so bad that the bank's like, we'll do anything to work with you. Here, take 3 more years. Here, take a reduction in your interest rate. Like, well, they don't want that problem. And it kind of fits with Kiyosaki's point there is like, because it's so much money, like they don't want to deal with it. They're going to work with us on it. So anyway, that's neither here nor there when it comes to debt, but you do need to finance your debt somehow. My guess is if you don't want to save up the money. Now, if you want to save up money and you make good income, you can save it up and buy rentals for cash, more power to you. Like, I love that. But if that was me, I would still be working a $13 an hour job, and I still would not have bought my first property yet. Like, I'd still be struggling to buy my first deal 20 years later. So you can take the slow approach. Here's how I look at the Dave Ramsey thing. He's not wrong, but also it's not wrong to say kids should not ride in vehicles because the only kids that die in car accidents are ones that are riding in vehicles. So therefore, you should not allow your children to ever be inside of a moving vehicle. And you're like, well, that's true, but that would really put a damper on life if you just didn't use vehicles. And you shouldn't use a vehicle. None of us should use vehicles because they're dangerous. And do you know how many people die in car accidents every year? A lot. So therefore, you should not use cars. Well, of course we use cars because it's the societal net positive is greater than the risk of the negative. That's how I kind of look at debt. If done correctly, it is dangerous. You get in a car accident with debt. But if you don't use it, you might be stuck at a job for 20 years you don't like because you're afraid of the risk. So there's let me know in the comments, everybody. Do you agree with that? Like, what's your take on the Dave Ramsey, the debt thing? Because some people are really strong Dave Ramsey people and other people are really strong Dave Ramsey people, except when it comes to this and the 12% stock market number that he uses, which is complete BS.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of, in our family, we don't do a lot of Dave Ramsey stuff. We did though. When we got married, we were 20 years old. We moved to Colorado and we both had jobs. I was making $12 an hour valeting cars and we were broke as a joke. And so we actually did the envelope system and it was super helpful to make sure that we knew where every single dollar was going. And it probably allowed us to get to a spot in our life to where we could buy real estate, doing that in our 20s and learning like the fundamentals of what it means to budget and how to track your finances.
All right. So let's talk about, I'm assuming the rest of this, we'll talk about using debt. Now, there's a couple ways you could do that. There's what we call traditional financing and then creative financing. So if you're looking for your very first deal, you're probably not going to go out there and start a 506c syndication and go raise $100 million. That's just an assumption. Most of you are probably looking at doing a more traditional route, which is maybe you put down 20, 25, 30%, depends on what bank and what the requirements are, and you buy a property. Most of us could probably do that. I even have if it's going to be an investment property, like I even have a loan company. We're called Better Life Ref. We help real estate funding, REF, real estate funding. And we help people with that. So betterliferef.com if you're interested. We do a lot of that kind of traditional stuff.
You guys are doing 30-year fixed DSCR loans right now. That's insane.
I know. And they're in like the 5% range or as low as 5%. You can get higher than that. Depends on a lot of factors. But yeah, DSCR loans have come down so far. It's wild. Like they're almost just like a normal traditional bank loan at this point. So let's talk about creative financing. I actually wrote a whole book on this. It's called The Book on Investing in Real Estate with No and Low Money Down. You can get it on Amazon if you care. But I'm going to talk about maybe like my top 5 favorite. And Cam, you might have some more to add to this, but I'll give you my 5. Number 1, house hacking. This is where you live in a multifamily property and you rent out the other units. And the reason this is a financing strategy is you can get an FHA loan. It's a government-sponsored loan. It's called FHA, 3.5% down payment. So if you're buying that $200,000 duplex in Cincinnati, you need less than 10 grand to do so. Awesome. You do have to agree to live in the property for a year, and then you can move out and you don't have to get a new loan. You can just keep that in place. But for most newbies getting in, especially if they're younger and single, house hacking is such a phenomenal way to get started. It also works for a single family house. You could rent out the bedrooms or you could do a live-in flip. It kind of works the same way. But I love house hacking. Number 2, you can pull equity from a property you already own. So if you own a house that you bought and it went up in value and you're sitting, let's say you owe $200,000 to the bank and it's worth $500,000. You've got $300,000 of equity. You can go to a local bank or any bank and get what's called a line of credit or a home equity line of credit on that. And now it's like a giant credit card at really low interest rates that you can use and pay back, use and pay back like a credit card. Super helpful for flipping houses, super helpful for doing the burst strategy. So that's my number 2. Number 3, partnerships. I mean, I've literally bought a little over $1 billion of real estate using this strategy. I find people who have money and don't have time or knowledge. And then I bring my team's time and knowledge. We find deals, we manage the whole process, and together we do it. But that doesn't just work for $1 billion fund. That also works for your very first house. Like I know I got a buddy who wanted to buy his first house, couldn't quite get there, didn't have enough money. So he went and found a partner. The partner brought in like 40 grand. He brought like 40 grand and they used the 80 grand together to put the down payment on like a $800,000 property. And then they cash flowed and they were just partners on it. So partnerships can be great. And there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat. That's a weird phrase. Is that the right phrase? Skin that cat?
I feel like it is the right phrase, but when you think about it, it's pretty dark.
Why are we skinning cats? That's so dark. Anyway, a lot of ways to do that. There's partnerships where you're both doing work, partnership where one of you doing the work, one put the money in. There's 50-50. You could do it 70-30. There's different strategies there, but I love partnerships. I've done a lot of that. 4th one, seller financing. That's where the seller of the property is paid off for free and clear. Like they don't have any bank loan on it. And then when you buy it, they basically act as the bank. So you make your payments to them every month instead of to a bank. And the reason I love seller financing, my first apartment complex I bought with seller financing, it was a 24 unit. It was awesome because it solved 2 people's problems. The seller, they didn't want to just sell the property, have to pay taxes on it, and then have to figure out where to put that money. They were trying to retire and travel the country in their RV. For me, I didn't have the ability to get a bank loan and I didn't have a big down payment. So win-win. I made them monthly payments that supported their lifestyle for a decade while I didn't have to go to a bank for that. And the last piece is what I call wholesale to funding. I don't know, there's probably a better name. We need a name for this. You know how like Pace Morby puts names like Gator Lending to stuff. It's like, we need a name for the idea of you wholesale real estate to make money that you then use as a down payment on investment properties. So what are we going to call that? Is that like lava flipping? Can we call it lava flipping?
We can do whatever you want.
We live on a volcano. I feel like we should call that lava flipping. I know you've done a lot of that. You flip houses and you wholesale and you use that money to buy rentals. So I just gave you my top 5. Cam, what are your thoughts on my top 5?
I love them all. I would say my favorite thing is, at least right now, is kind of the flip/wholesale to fund
lava flipping. I don't know if you heard about it. Lavaflipping.com.
I would say lava flipping is the greatest, where it's like, hey, because the reality is, like, for us, the houses that we're looking to wholesale and flip are also a lot of the same houses that we're looking to keep as rental properties. So like we have this funnel of leads up top where like it can be a flip, it can be a wholesale, it could be a rental property. And it's like we're going to flip wholesale 2 to 3 of them, and then we're going to buy one of them as a rental property. And we're going to repeat that cycle over and over again. So really, really like that. And then, I mean, you kind of talked about this in partnerships, but I love the private money route and paying them, not giving them a piece of equity in the property, but just paying them an interest rate on that money. Because there's a lot of people out there that are okay with a 6, 7, 8% interest rate. And it's 6, that's rare. I don't find a lot of people at 6, but 8%, like using private money to pay 8%, but you're not doing points. You don't have, like, I've done that multiple times where I'd rather do that and own the entire asset than do a partnership.
So moving on to what might be the most important part. I know I said decisions are the most important part, but if you decide, but then you don't ever do anything about your decision, then you got a problem. So the last D is actually, no, it's not the last D. Sorry. This is the 4th D, is disciplines. Not discipline. Not like I told a lie to my mom and then she spanked me and put my nose in the corner for an hour, right? Like that's getting disciplined. I'm talking about the disciplines, plural. A discipline is something that you do whether you want to or not. It's like I'm a disciplined person and I do my disciplines. I do it day in and day out, whether I want to. It's because that's what I, as a human, have decided is going to get me the results of what I want. I say this quote all the time in the Better Life Tribe and elsewhere. You get the results of what you repeatedly do. So what are the actions that if you repeatedly did them would virtually guarantee you success? And that's a broad question for all areas of your life. Like what could you do every single day or multiple times a week that would ensure you have a better marriage? Oh, well, I guess date nights and not being critical of them and buying them gifts because that's their love language and taking out the trash. There's a metaphor I use a lot. I'm a big metaphor guy. But imagine you're playing football. Cam, you've done some football in your life. Like, you know what gets all the PR, all the press, all the late night talk shows or whatever, you know, the late night news showing the replays is like the Hail Mary or the 80-yard run, right? That's what everyone gets really excited about. But if you're watching a game of football, you realize that that's maybe 1% of the game. 99% of the game, besides commercials and cheerleaders, is like when they're actually playing the game, it's running the ball 2 or 3 yards or passing the ball 2 or 3 yards. It's very slow and methodical to work your way down the field. And every once in a while, you get a 5 or 10 yard run or a 5 or 10 yard pass. And then every once in a great while, you get the 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 yard thing. But those are a lot more rare. The reason I bring this up is if you're trying to buy a deal, it's kind of like getting a touchdown. Like at the other end of the field, you got 100 yards to get. And if you're just like relying or believing that it's just Hail Marys that win the game, you're just wrong. It's the play after play after play after play. It's the work you do every day and every week that gets you the result. Again, you get the results of what you repeatedly do. So literally like that, I mentioned that first deal program and also Better Life. Like you don't have to be part of this to do what I'm about to tell you. Every single week, we ask the people who show up to the calls, what did you do in the last 7 days that got you down the field a few yards further? And then we say, what is your bottleneck? What's holding you back right now that's stopping you from going down the field? And then third question, what are you going to do over the next 7 days? Like what's your 3, 4, 5 yard run or pass this week? Those 3 questions right there absolutely will change your life. It's what did you do? What's holding you back and what are you going to do? And if you just ask that question every single week, you will continually drive your ball down the field and you'll score touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. That's what I mean when I talk about disciplines. You just do the work. You identify the work that needs to be done and then you do it. And if you need some added accountability, then get the accountability. If you need to join a program, join a program. If you need to hire a coach, hire a coach. But do the work and you get the results. So that's what I mean.
Dude, I love that.
Should we talk about some of the things, like maybe some of the actions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is, like you said, this is the most important part, even though we said decisions was.
It's all the most important.
Yes. But I feel like you didn't really make that decision if you're not going to take action. So it goes together. But like tracking your disciplines is the number one thing that I could tell anybody if they want to be successful that they have to do.
Yep, I agree.
You can become an expert on deal flows, like your buy box, your crystal clear. You can have that written down, know that inside and out. You can be an expert on debt and finding financing and have great relationships with banks, yada, yada, yada. But if you aren't out there doing the right actions over and over and over again, you're never going to be successful. You're going to have all this knowledge, but you're never actually going to be successful. And so in our company, my company, like we track our disciplines and we've reverse engineered it, very similar to what you talk about a lot, is like, okay, our ultimate goal is to buy houses. Well, how do we buy houses? Well, we have to get offers under contract. We have to get houses under contract. Okay. So then what do we have to do before that? Well, to get a house under contract, we have to make an offer. Okay. Well, what do we have to do to make an offer? Well, we have to go and walk the house because we are non-contingent offers on everything. We walk the house. So we have to go and walk the house. Okay. Well, to walk the house, what do we have to do? Well, we have to get the lead. Okay. Well, how do we get leads? And then we have like our marketing funnel and our connector funnel. Well, let's go to connector funnels. Well, we create relationships with connectors. Okay. How do we create relationships with the connectors? We go to local meetups. We pick up our phone and call. We send cold emails. And so we work ourselves all the way back to what are the things that we have to do today. And so we've got our like, hey, we're going to have coffee with 5 different connectors every single week. We are going to go to multiple meetups a week. We are going to walk X amount of houses a week. We are going to put in X amount of offers a week. And we know that that's going to lead to houses under contract that turn into buys eventually.
That's it, man. You just reverse engineer it all the way down. And hey, in the resource or the description of this YouTube video, and I'll give you a URL instead if you're listening to the podcast, I actually would love to give you my like disciplines tracker. I actually have like a habit tracker, action tracker, disciplines tracker, whatever you want to call it. I have one for free. You can go download right now. Either go to the description, it's there, or go to abetterlife.com/tracker. And you can download the actual habit tracker that we give out to everyone in the Better Life tribe so you can start tracking your actions on a regular basis. Well, let's talk about some of the habits. Let's talk about 10 habits or actions or disciplines that a new real estate investor may want to consider adding to their like habit tracker so that they actually will land deals. Let's just maybe, I don't know, go back and forth on our list here. Number one, and each of these could be expanded into 50 different points, but we'll just say number one, prospect for new deals. So maybe that means looking on Zillow. Maybe it means sending out some direct mail marketing. Maybe it's just like 1 hour per week prospecting, and you fill in the blank on how you're going to do that. But number one, prospect for new leads.
Yep. Analyzing deals. Making sure that you are analyzing a deal day, even if you're not ready to buy, maybe you don't have funding lined up, anything like that. Analyzing deals in the market that you want to be in, so helpful. It helps you learn the market. It helps you know what numbers you're looking for, what works, what doesn't work. So just analyzing a deal a day, something along those lines.
I love that. Number two, actually, you know what? Another free resource. If you want to get access to my pure cash flow calculator, just look in the description as well. I'll put that in there. It's just like a spreadsheet, a Google sheet that I've built over the last 20 years, just kind of continually refining on how to run the numbers on a property and all that. So analyze at least one deal every day. Number three, talk to a real estate agent. Simple.
Number four, and this one, I think you have to have some steps before here, but making offers. Now, I would say, like for somebody that's just starting, make sure you know how to analyze deals. You have your funding lined up, but because you don't want to make an offer and then not be able to close on it or back out of the contract. You have to have some things lined up, but making offers is one of our key metrics that we track. Is how many offers that we put out this week.
Yeah, I talked to a buddy recently and he was like, man, I just haven't been on a date in like over a year and I just can't seem to get a girlfriend. I'm like, oh, how many girls have you asked out? None. I'm like, well, if you don't ask them out, you're never going to get one. Like they don't just like land in your lap and like, hey. So the same thing is true for real estate. Yeah, you may not make an offer this week, but like if you're not making offers, you're not buying deals. That's just the bottom line. Next one, just education. Like maybe there's a number of hours per week of education you want to be able to track. Like I did 3 hours of education. You know, this video here is going to be like 2 hours long. So maybe this is a big piece of that. Could be a podcast, could be a mastermind. You know, like we have a weekly call for first deal. Maybe you're on that call every week for an hour, getting educated. Like set a goal on how much education do you want to have and work towards that.
Number six, talk to a mentor or an experienced investor, somebody that you know that's potentially maybe in your market, the asset class, doing the strategy that you want, and just reaching out to them and set either a weekly cadence or a monthly cadence. But it's just, this is something I'm going to do, and it's a non-negotiable once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Love it. Number seven, attend a meetup or a local networking event. There's actually real estate clubs happening all around the country all the time. Real estate's one of those kind of cool industries where we get together a lot. So no matter what city you're in, I almost guarantee you, if it's a decent sized city, you have local meetups. And if there's not one or you don't like the ones, go start your own. Like just go start your own. Go put it on meetup.com and just talk about it. It's one thing actually in the next year we're going to hopefully launch is these Better Life Cashflow clubs that are going to be kind of nationwide. So that is coming, but we're still a little ways away from officially launching. But you'll hear it when it comes. It's going to be fun.
Amazing. Number 8, pay off debt or save up money. Have some sort of goal around that where like your finances, it was, am I saving money? Am I paying off debt? Whatever it may be.
Or just tracking, like you're
just track it. Yeah. Track your finance.
But yeah. If you just go and categorize your expenses, 4 times a week, and that's one of your habits, it takes you 20 minutes every time. Like how life-changing would that be in terms of getting a grip on your finances?
Yeah. I have a theory on that is most people know that it would help. They're just too scared to do it. I'm one of them. I'm one of them
too.
Because it's me.
I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to feel bad about my spending. So I'd rather just not look. And then it doesn't make me feel bad. Great logic. Number 9, review your goals and metrics. One of the most important habits is to review your habits. And so I do this every Sunday night. I have like a date with myself. I spend like 30 minutes. I rewrite down my top 3 goals for the quarter. I look at my annual goals, and then I look at my metrics for my habit tracking from the past 7 days. And I say, how did I do? What's my score? I actually literally gamify that, like that tracking document I mentioned a few minutes ago that you guys can get at abetterlife.com/tracker. Like there's that you gamify and you get a score, a percentage. And every week I'm trying to improve my score. Why? When I improve my score, it means I'm doing more of the actions that I have identified that will give me the life that I want. So if my score goes up, my life should be getting better. Hence the name Better Life Tribe, which is where that name comes from. It's like we want to improve our life. So we do it by reverse engineering what success looks like. Well, defining what success looks like and then reverse engineering it by getting down to the nitty gritty daily actions, tracking them, doing the work, getting accountability. And then whether it's wealth, health, relationship, whatever, you're going to get there. So that's number 9, review your goals and metrics at least once a week.
And last but not least, add on some accountability. Tell people what you're doing. bring on a coach, get involved in an accountability group, like where you're telling people what you're doing and then making sure that they're just asking you if you're doing it. It really is that easy. Like that easy of like, hey, I want to put out 3 offers this week. You meet with them at the end of the week and they ask you how many offers and you have to tell them, I didn't put any, or I put in 2, or I put in 3. There's some stat, and you know this, Brandon, because you study this a lot more than me. But like when you tell somebody what you're going to do, it increases the likelihood of you doing it like some crazy amount.
Yeah, there's like this whole like sliding scale, but it basically, if it starts with like, if you have an idea to do something, the chance of doing it is like 10%. And then if you like do, you write it down, it's now like 25%. If you do this, and if you tell someone, it's like 60%. But if you tell somebody and you have a weekly appointment with that person to follow up on it, it goes up to like 90 something percent. Yeah, it's wild. Accountability is huge. So whether you got to pay for it, you got to pay for a big expensive coach, whether you got to get a pod of people around to do it together, whatever you got to do, get that accountability. One thing, we call them weekly ones. So inside Better Life and inside First Deal, we have the same terminology. We call it a weekly one. It's every week in the call, you identify what is the one thing I'm going to do over the next 7 days. I mentioned that earlier as the third part of those 3 questions. But what's the thing I'm going to do? What is my weekly one? It's like one target. I am going to send my direct mail. I am going to set up a website. I am going to talk to an agent. I'm going to take a guy out to lunch. And if I do nothing else for the whole next 7 days, if I do that one thing, that's a win. And I'm going to publicly tell people that. And so we actually have a place that they actually upload their weekly one every week so we can track it. And then our team follows up with them. Hey, did you actually do it? Because that's the accountability we're talking about. That if you did that every single week, is you identified, did I do it? Right? Because you're held accountable to last week. What's my bottleneck? And then what am I going to do this week once I get through my bottleneck? It's like you just do that every single week. You will buy not just one deal, but multiple deals, and you'll hit financial freedom sooner than you ever thought possible. So accountability, massive. That's it. That's the end of our discipline. There's actually like probably 100 more disciplines you could do. And again, every one of those we could divide out into dozens of different ones, but those are probably pretty good. If you did that work, wouldn't you buy a deal eventually? I think so. Cool, man. Shall we move on to the 5th D?
50. There's
actually a 6th one too. I did say this is the 5 deal framework. I have a 6th one I'll give you. But first, let's do the 5th. The 5th D is what?
5th D is deal.
You get a deal.
Deal.
But this is important. I wrote this down. Offer accepted doesn't mean it's going to work out. Offer accepted is not the same as deal. And there's a few reasons for that. One, sometimes you put an offer under a contract and then it doesn't work out for a number of reasons. Maybe your numbers were bad and so you back out. Maybe you find something with an inspection and you back out. Maybe the seller gets cold feet and they're like, screw you, I'm not going to sell it to you anymore. How often does that happen to you guys where you put a deal under contract and it doesn't go through? I know you try to buy every single thing you do, but how often do deals fall apart?
Yeah, for us, if it does fall apart, it's always due to the seller. They have their title work, just messed up title work, and we can't close. But honestly, it happens. It's very rare because we kind of set the stage beforehand, asking them the right questions. On our end, we're giving them a high earnest money deposit, no contingencies, quick close. And so we rarely fall out, but I think like industry standard is probably closer to like 80%, 20% fall out. So you 80% make it to the closing table. But that's because a lot of them are retrading or renegotiating. Yeah. We don't do that.
Yeah, so a lot of people will do like at the last minute, they'll be like, actually, seller, I'm going to need $20,000 off more. And like they knew that all along, but they were just hoping to manipulate people. That's terrible.
I got to say something. I got to say something on this because I got a contract the other day. I didn't buy the house. Seller put it under contract with somebody else that was offering way higher than me, and then called me and was upset at the service that she was getting from the other company. But in that contract, they had a 90-day close with the opportunity to extend it another 90 days. The buyer had that. So essentially the wholesaler was locking it up for 6 months. Also in that contract, they can renegotiate at any time up until the moment of closing. And then on that, which I think this is sketchy, the seller has to be out 48 hours before closing. And so like what I am seeing with this contract is the person that signed it, and I told her this, is like, there's so many red flags in here that they're going to renegotiate. But they also want you out of the house. So now you've got a new apartment, you bought a new house, you've done X, Y, and Z. I don't even know if it's legal to have it. have that like that. But then when they renegotiate, it's like, what can you do? You almost have to say yes because they've already bought a new house or they've already moved into a new apartment. And then if they say no, then the wholesaler buyer on this contract, the way that it was written, has the opportunity to extend it another 90 days. So it's like, it's just the most sketchy thing in the world. And it fires me up. It's why wholesaling is going to be super regulated in the near future.
Wild, man. Oh, it's good to hear about that stuff. So yeah, once you get an offer accepted, also, it doesn't mean you've closed. It means you got some work to do. So there's things like due diligence, which is like check over everything, get an inspection done. I would ask for help on your numbers. Like ask somebody who's way better than you and that's been in the game longer to like double check your math and your logic. Say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? In fact, I know I've been talking a lot about First Deal today, so please don't think this is just one giant pitch for First Deal. If it's right for you, it's right for you. But in First Deal, everybody gets access to these, what we call millionaire mentors. I've got about a dozen different advisors in there. And these advisors are all experienced real estate investors. And our students can actually jump on calls, one-on-one calls with them. And this is the number one reason to jump on a call with an advisor, I think. Other than I'm just lost, I don't know what to do. Great, jump on a call. But it's when you get a deal and you're ready to put it under contract or you just did, like have somebody double check your numbers. Again, better to do it right before you offer than after, but like just have somebody look over your stuff before you go too deep. Just having somebody's experience is going to see things that you just don't see. So get all that done. And then of course, title company, attorneys that can help close the thing, usually title company, but some states use attorneys. And then once you close on it, it's still not a deal. You could buy the best property in the world, and if you don't manage it right, you still bought a dud. Like you still bought something that's going to hurt you. So you still like, it doesn't end when you close on the deal. That's when the game actually begins. And there's whole systems, and we do a whole episode just on how we manage our properties, but that's not today.
Finally, the last D.
The final D, the secret D.
The secret D is...
The secret D. That sounds terrible. It's the secret D.
The secret
Cam
D.
Secret D Cathcart. That's going to be your nickname right there. Do it again.
Do it again, man.
Do it again. In other words, once you've done this process, the 5D process, you can do that again and again and again and again and again, and you get better at it every time. And if you stay focused on your crystal clear criteria, you're going to become world class at that thing. And that's how you get financial freedom. So build for freedom, get that number. What's your freedom number? What are you trying to get to? Track your metrics, increase your funnel, raise money if you need to, stay focused on the short-term actions that win the long-term game, and just keep going, man. Don't give up. It's consistency and persistence that win the game.
Love it. Love it.
Cool, man. Well,
it's amazing. I think that is a great place to start for anybody that just listen to this. It's an amazing place to start.
Well, go do it. So quick summary of our episode today. The 5D framework plus the secret D. It's decide what you're going to do, get your deal flow going, figure out your debt, do the work, the disciplines, and then you'll get a deal. And if you do that, you can do it over and over and over again. Now, again, if you found this video helpful or this podcast helpful, don't forget to like it and give it a little heart or whatever you got to do to make the internet gods know this is good. Follow us on social media and, of course, here on the podcast, whether it's on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. And if you want more hand-holding on getting your first deal, see all the resources we have in the description on the YouTube video. But also check out firstdeal.com. I would love to have you check it out. I'd love to have you in there. I'm in there every single week helping these people, helping you buy your first or next property. If you need the fundamentals, First Deal's there to help. I appreciate you all. And without further ado, Cam, you want to get us out of here?
Yes. Without further ado, how do we break? What do we do?
I don't know. How do we stop these things? We just say, done.